All this new security. How's a guy supposed to break out of here? Don't be a stranger.
He surrendered almost without a fight. I don't like it.
At least he's back where he belongs. Get up!
I set a trap, and you sprang it gloriously. Now let's get this party started!
There's no escape, Joker.
I don't want to escape. I'm having way too much fun.
It's over, Joker.
Over? Why, my dear delusional Dark Knight. It hasn't even begun.
「目覚めてからの13日が世界の終わりの始まりだった」。
ルシの使命っつうのはああしろこうしろって言葉ではっきり説明されるわけじゃねえんだ。
使命が分からなければ果たしようもない。
もう見たと思う。
安心しろ。アルスに追放なんてさせない。俺らがどうにかするから。
俺たちも手伝うぞ。そうだ、このまま黙ってられるか。
分かった。戦える奴は手を貸してくれ。敵は国運政府、しかも恐怖の最高だ。
何が恐怖よ。あたしらノラの敵じゃないよ。
セラだ。セラが助けてくれたんだ。
ふざけるな。いいか、セラはお前のせいでルシの力だ。マルチに呪われたんだ。ルシにされたんだよ。
Right on, boys. With me. Have you seen that? Starpoint 21, this is Razor Team requesting immediate extraction. Sending LZ coordinates over. Razor, this is Star Force 21. Copy that. On our way. Out. Okay, Marines. Go on, get out of here. Got it? We're in there, right?
Okay, set.
Everyone down! Drop your weapons! U.S. Marines! Everybody down!
St. Pierre. Are you ready? Are you ready? And we are underway.
Good leg kick, George St. Pierre.
BJ Penn loves to counter. There's a takedown. BJ got absolutely rocked. Oh, GSP takes a big shot there. BJ Penn looking to finish it quickly. And he lost it. St. Pierre with a takedown.
BJ's looking for a triangle. Nice reversal.
Listen to this building, partner. Is this any good or what?
Oh, nice kick.
Another takedown.
He's got it. George St. Pierre turning it on. Wow. Nice.
Wow. It is all over.
city is changing. And I'm changing with it. I can be anything. Become anyone. Absorbing every memory until I can remember who I am and who deserves my wrath.
Monsters vs. Aliens, the video game. When aliens attack, monsters fight back. Only your team of monsters can smash.
Sweet dreams, pal.
Skate.
All right.
Yay!
And ooze the way to victory.
This is fun!
Activision and DreamWorks Animation present...
Whoa!
Monsters vs. Aliens, the video game.
Don't worry, we have it all under control.
I got him, you guys!
Okay, so we're kicking off this month's DVD with one final look at Street Fighter 4, our roundtable review. Mike, you reviewed it last issue and gave it 95%.
I did.
Why the big number?
Someone came into the office and we were just chatting about fighting games and so on, and I said, I've played a lot of fighting games. I've played, and he jumped in, he said, well, almost all of them. I was like, you know what? Almost all of them, like right down to like stupid games like Brutal, Pools of Fury.
How about Shaq Fu?
And Shaq Fu, exactly. These awful games. I've played so many fighting games over the years, and perhaps never got great at any of them, but always enjoyed them. And we've got this. Street Fighter 4 came in, and it's just been constantly on since December in the office, in various states of completion, and it is, I think, without question, the best fighting game I've ever played. Perhaps not the best, but certainly my favourite. For every move, there's a counter move. For every character, there's another character which is a better fight against it. It's very well balanced. Perhaps by accident, perhaps deliberately. I'm not sure. Either way, it's a very well balanced game. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, you can have fun at any level. I think that's what's key. Third Strike was brilliant. Make no mistake, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike was a really, really good game. But so many of the tools were reserved for very high-level players. And at high level, so much of the game was about countering and so on. But in Street Fighter 4, there's tools for everyone. And at a low level, the tools you're using there are the same as the tools you're using at the highest levels, but you're just using them with a different level of skill. So for example, at a low level, a focus attack can just be used to dish out a big hit to your opponent or hit them and then jump in quickly and go for a sweep. At an intermediate level, you could, absorb an attack with it and then strike back and then dash in and go for a combo. And at the highest levels, you can break into in the middle of other moves by cancelling out of them and then going straight into an ultra combo or really extending your combos with it. It's the same tool, but it's got uses for everyone. And I think that's the key. For so long, fighting games have just been the preserve of the hardcore. And that's okay, and that's led to a lot of really, really good games. But a few thousand people all over the world competing in tournaments isn't enough to keep fighting games going. We need one game to champion fighting games for everyone and put it back in the hands of the people. I think that's what Street Fighter 4 has done.
I love the fact, obviously, I've come into this not really knowing much about fighting games. I've been able to hold my own. I mean, okay, you kick my ass most of the times that you play, but every once in a while, we do have a close fight, and it's not through just button mashing either. Street Fighter's not a game where you can just button mash.
No.
Even if you're playing Blanka and you're just trying to crouch down and use his electric attack, even that doesn't work.
I've played against guys whose ability to execute moves is far, far better than mine. But I've been able to compete just by picking the right move at the right time, always being ready to counter. So they can, anytime I get a hit in, I'm not going to do as much damage as them because they're going to turn a hit into a really extended combo. But every time I get a hit in, if you make it count, then you can compete that way. You don't have to be the guy who's dishing out 10 hit combos all the time. You have to be the guy who can execute every single move flawlessly.
You said there's one guy who makes a living on getting a number of hits and then just avoiding.
Yeah, there are tournament players in America who play Street Fighter 2 in so many different ways. Some are really aggressive and will hunt you down. There's one guy who's quite well known, will just get a few hits in, get ahead, and then just back off and shy away for the entire fight.
That's the kind of jammy play I like.
He's so good at avoiding damage, he can get away with that. And I know what kind of skill it takes to do that because, it sounds cheesy, but that's a legitimate way of playing. At the other end of the office, sometimes they turn the timer off on a game. Can't do that. You've got to play it 3 rounds, 99 seconds per round. Keep it old school, keep it the way it was back in 1992. And for me, that's so I mean, nostalgia is a big part of it. But that isn't what got the game the 95%. What got the game the 95% was it takes what is ostensibly a very advanced, very complicated fighting game and has made it somehow accessible for everyone.
It might just be, would you say, the perfect fighting game, apart from the cutscenes?
Yeah, the cutscenes aren't very good. The cutscenes are awful. Didn't need them. We don't want them. Get them out if you do a Championship Edition version because they really do cheapen the whole package. The game's presentation is so good. Those cutscenes are just a joke. Just hit start when they come on, skip them. You don't need them.
Oh, Mike, what's that you got there?
This, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the Street Fighter 4 Tournament Edition stick from a very new Mad Catz, a very different Mad Catz. This is not something those guys would have been making 3 years ago. This is a very, very different stick. This is the Street Fighter 4 Tournament Edition stick. We have one in the office because they cost £150. So
That's a lot. That's more than an Xbox 360 arcade pack, Mike.
Yeah, that's actually is. You're right. I never thought of it that way.
You could buy an Xbox and have change.
You could buy yourself a fun time with a nice lady for that much money.
I don't know about that.
No?
No, I don't know.
Well, maybe some of our readers can let you know. But this is the first of our looks at the Mad Catz peripherals, which they've released for Street Fighter 4. And
I mean, we're not usually big on peripherals for one very good reason. It's almost always the case that the official controllers and whatnot are the best.
Yeah.
Usually when you get third-party control pads, sticks, fans and tat like that, they're very rarely worth your cash.
It's true. It's true.
And £150 is a lot of cash.
The one area, of course, that the 360 controller falls down is that D-pad. For a game like Street Fighter, you really need a good D-pad or a good stick, and this is literally the best stick money can buy. We said it in our issue. This is, I think, probably the best arcade stick ever made. Inside here, you'll find the exact components from the Street Fighter 4 arcade machine, right down to the colours and the model numbers. Now, it does have an extra 2 buttons, which is, of course, your left bumper and your left trigger, whereas the arcade machine would just have 6 buttons and either a couple of plugged up holes or nothing at all. You got your start and your back button back here, and you can also apply turbo to any button, which is, I don't know, something we frown upon deeply, but it's a useful thing if you want to play like Ikaruga or something.
I don't know, I like turbo because Fable 2 pub games, there's an achievement for getting 100 times your bet on Spinner Box, and I needed to stick a turbo on and leave it for 3 hours to unlock that. Otherwise I would have had to sit there pressing A and A. So
now
I like turbo.
all you have to do is turn turbo on, just hold the turbo button, hit the button, and then release the turbo button, and then you'll have a little light saying it's got turbo on. Each one has 2 turbo speed settings as well. And then you can just take your house brick, plonk it on there, leave it for 3 hours, get your achievement.
I noticed there's a little lock button on there as well.
Yeah,
this is very handy.
This is really useful. There's a button which actually locks out the big Microsoft X button, which will stop people from hitting it, which is important because sometimes I play people in the office and they keep hitting that button, and then I have to murder them.
It's mostly pad players, to be honest.
It's true, yeah.
But you know, every once in a while, if you're getting a bit excited, which someone like me tends to do in a fighting game when they're not quite entirely sure what they're doing, you know, hitting a few buttons, it can be quite easy to accidentally hit the guide button. It will stop the game, bring up the, well, not the blade anymore, the little menu.
Yeah.
But to lock it out, that's a really good feature.
And then you just have to reach around there and just throttle them. That's happened quite a lot. We've had a couple of Blanca players in the office going, you know, and suddenly the button gets hit. But you can, of course, lock that out. You can also change what the stick's assigned to, the left stick, right stick, D-pad switch at the top, so you can actually have it set to whatever you want to, if you want it to represent, which I think mostly is going to be useless, but the option's there. But let's talk about, you know, this stick. The thing is built like a battleship. You know, it weighs probably a couple of kilos, maybe slightly less. I don't know. It has a flap at the back to tuck the cable away, and it's got a long cable which you won't be able to see, but it's trailing off into the distance. It's got 4 feet on the bottom, which are actually also just pre-drilled holes. So if you're a kind of, well, let's say it, nerd, who's going to mount this to a table, and we've got nothing against that, you know what, I might do the same. But if you're going to mount it to a table, then you can just, the holes are already there, you can just mount them straight on. Now, if you do decide to open this stick up, you will be invalidating your warranty. But if you do open it up, you'll see inside it's got, like, you know, ridiculously high-end components, very well made, and all the components have got easy removal, you know, little plugs. You just pop them out, replace them with whatever parts you want. So say you don't like the colour of the buttons, well, you can change that. Say you don't like the stick, well, you can change that too. If you want to put like an American-style baseball bat-shaped stick, you can do that too, because all of these parts are designed to be very moddable. Just pop them in, whip them out. Obviously, we don't endorse that because we don't want anyone killing their £150 joystick. But if you're confident that you can do that, then you can use this base as the base for a really good stick. Or hell, you could swap those parts out and use them somewhere else. You know, you can actually take the parts out of here, put them into the smaller Mad Catz stick if you prefer the shape of that, which we'll be looking at in a minute. It's a stick designed by people who love joysticks, for people who love joysticks. I mean, it's very likely right now, if you're watching this DVD, you won't be able to find this on shelves, but that doesn't mean you'll never be able to find them. They are coming.
Because it was a limited run.
It was a limited run. The number we have is 700, but Mad Catz wouldn't confirm or deny that. We think that's a realistic number, certainly from what we've seen, and they were pre-ordered everywhere. Amazon dumped 4 times their number of allocations in pre-orders in 1 hour. So these are going to be hard to find, and they're going to be very expensive on eBay. I have no doubt. I mean, these sticks are going to be very, very expensive on eBay. But don't be a mug. Don't let people on eBay rob you. Just wait. It's just like the Wii. If you want one, you'll get one eventually. And it is worth waiting for. If you wait, you will find one for £130, I guarantee it. The price may even drop lower than that over time. But it is expensive. It does have very expensive components inside. The build quality, as I say, is just second to none. It is unquestionably the arcade stick to get if you were really into sticks. But the other peripherals are good too, and honestly, it's like you say, it costs more than an Xbox 360, this joystick at the moment. That's a lot of money to spend on a stick. I would spend it because I love to have a really good joystick, and now I do.
I mean, obviously it's going to be more interesting to someone who's really into their fighting games than it is to, I won't say Joe Public me, but someone who is coming into Street Fighter 4 with very little background in it, without really knowing too much about fighting games. What difference is it going to make?
Well, it's not going to make you a great player overnight. Let's make it very clear. This stick isn't going to turn you from being, Joe Scrub into Johnny Tournament player overnight. What it will do is, if you're talking the difference between the 360 controller and this, it will completely change the way you play the game. And I mean completely change the way you play the game. Because on a 360 controller, any kind of high-end execution of anything as simple as a fireball or a hurricane kick, on that controller, you're looking at maybe 80% chance of getting out. Maybe if you're sticking in the middle of a combo, you can probably drop that even lower. With this, there's no excuses. I mean, I'm not great at Street Fighter. I tried to be better, but I'm not great. But on this, I can execute very well, very efficiently, to a high percentage. It will change the way you play the game just because all of a sudden moves you couldn't do before or couldn't do consistently before are so much more accessible. Particularly like the more motion intense moves like spinning pile driver, which on this is just bang and it's done. Well, they don't take your hand off the stick because that's bad. But it's like bang, bang. It's just very, very, very quick. On a pad, running your thumb around, it's a lot you can't do it that fast. You certainly can't do the double. Although I've heard people say that the double spinning pile driver is actually impossible from standing with Zangief, because for now he jumps in 6 frames. It's just, you wouldn't be able to do it fast enough. You have to hide it inside another move. I'm getting into some nerdy stuff now. But I think possibly the biggest difference it'll make to every average gamers, and not just this stick, but any stick, is it'll get rid of those thumb blisters. And everyone who plays fighting games, everyone who played them back in the SNES days, and the PlayStation days, knows about those thumb blisters. Knows about how over time your thumb gets worn down and you've got no print on your thumb, which is fine if you're a would-be assassin, but I like having a thumbprint, thanks very much. So I like to have a decent stick. This is more than a decent stick, this is a great stick, and it has the price to back it up. So yeah, if you want the best stick money can buy, well now finally money can buy it. This stick hasn't, it's taken this long to get a stick this good into the Western market. Japan's had some decent sticks for the PlayStation 3 for a while, and Hori are releasing a new 360 stick in Japan quite soon, which is a version of one of their PS3 sticks, which has also got Sanwa components in, just like this one. But those are in the Japanese market. Over here, it's taken a long, long time to get a stick this good out. And now it's finally here. Sure, you have to pay through the nose for it, but not everyone's going to want it, not everyone's going to need it, and those that do are going to be happy to pay every penny. So Matt, it looks like you got yourself a little joystick.
Well, I saw you had the tournament stick there, so I thought, well, I had to get a stick of my own. This is the second Street Fighter 4 stick from Mad Catz.
Yeah.
Is this just called the standard fight stick?
They just call it the fight stick, I think.
Street Fighter.
Whatever they're calling it, we're calling it the standard. I mean, it's actually quite far above the standards what we're used to. I mean, we've been using the Hori stick for a while.
The Hori EX2, which I bought myself actually for Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
See, not into fighting games. Street Fighter 4 is so good. Had to go out and buy me a stick anyway.
That's
for
true.
that.
Yeah. We were playing it in the office, and Matt went straight out and bought himself a joystick to play it on.
That was broke, so I had to get another. But I've got one now. I've got one now. So anyway, first impressions of this. Obviously, it's a lot lighter, a lot smaller. You still got your turbo buttons. Still got your locking of the.
Yeah, you have all the same functions certainly. You have smaller start and back buttons at the back. They're not full-size buttons.
No place to hide your cable.
No,
sadly.
No. So it's lacking some of the cheeky features. It's a lot, as you say, a lot lighter.
I think one thing that's interesting, it was on the other one we didn't show you, is the headphone jack. It's just a flat one.
Yeah.
You get an adapter to put in your 360
headset. The headphone jack is a headset adapter. If it works with the modern Xbox 360 headset, you can just plug it straight in. That's the one which comes with the chat pad, and I think quite a lot of modern 360s. But if you haven't got that particular headset, that's okay, because they all come with a free adapter, which you can just use to connect your headset.
The other thing that I think is really important to address is the fact the button layout. It's not the same as other fighting sticks. It's actually laid out like a controller.
Yeah.
The A, B, the X, and Y. When you go into Street Fighter 4, if you choose arcade stick setup, they won't actually work right.
No,
you need to use the controller
you want
setup.
Controller setup. So that confused us at first, for sure. Of course, that stick has the same layer as the Tournament Edition stick. What it doesn't have is the same buttons and the same joystick. These are just stock parts sourced by Mad Catz, which would ordinarily perhaps be a cause to make you tremble. But no, they've sourced some really good parts, and it is, without doubt, a cut above the Hori stick, which is the standard 360 stick in the West at the moment. Unfortunately, it's also a cut above in price as well.
Yeah. Is it? I think Hori's retailing about 40 quid. I think.
Well, Hori's RRP I think is £40. I think you can probably pick one up for 35, 30.
This is 60.
RRP of 60, but you probably pick one up for 50.
Yep.
Hope maybe 45 if you start looking around. It's a lot cheaper in the American market, which I think is unfortunate, but then the exchange rate is crazy at the moment.
Yeah.
We've been absolutely screwed. I mean, it used to be that you go to America and everything was half price, and now we've been
Well, like the Rock Band
credit
peripherals, obviously, when Rock Band peripherals came over, there was a big thing because they were twice the price here.
Of course.
I don't think like the stick itself is. It's definitely better than the Hori stick. It's not massively better, but then you got the turbo and the lock button, and you can change the stick to whatever analog stick you want. I do think the button layout as well, it helps if you're going to be playing other games like live arcade games.
Definitely. I think it's important to stress that a good joystick isn't a one-game controller. I mean, this is the controller which I use to play, the tournament stick is anyway. It's the controller I used to play Ikaruga. It's the controller I used to play Pac-Man now, Championship Edition. It's the controller I use for lots of different arcade games. I use it for R-Type as well. It's a controller which you can use across lots and lots of games. Perhaps not as many as your regular controller, obviously.
Can't go play Call of Duty 4 with it or anything.
But it's still a multi-use peripheral. It's not just something you're going to use for one game and break out every now and again. It is an expensive peripheral, though. Let's make that clear. It's this price of a game. Essentially, you're looking at the price of a game. But I honestly would say, for Street Fighter, on any fighting game, you need something better than the 360 controller. Now, whether it's the tournament stick, the standard fight stick, or the Mad Catz controller, you need something. And in the mid-range of the market, you're really not going to find a better stick than this in the West. The Hori stick, I think, would be fine if you're planning on dipping in and out of Street Fighter. I mean, even if you're only planning on dipping in and out, I still think, get a stick. It is worth that £30, however much it costs you, to pick one up off of eBay or off of Amazon from a reseller. It's worth the extra 30 quid. It really will change the game. It really will make the game for you. And if you're going to be a guy who's playing every day against friends, you perhaps don't need the tournament stick. You're not playing all these tournament players. You're not playing the best players in the world. So maybe you don't need the tournament stick. But if you're planning on playing against friends every day, well.
And if you're planning on playing on live, of course.
Yeah, and that stick will then pay for itself. It really will. But if you're just dipping in and out, I think you're probably safer with the Hori one. That's a much better stick. It's a slightly more expensive stick. So maybe for the serious players, the tournament stick for the most dedicated players, and a Hori one for just if you're planning on dipping in and out.
So, Mike, what's that you've got there?
Oh well, Matt, I'm just playing a little bit of Street Fighter 4 on my Mad Catz Street Fighter 4 controller.
Do you think they bought it?
Why not? Why wouldn't they? It's gone. Okay. So this is the Chun-Li version of the controller. It is.
There's a Ken and Ryu.
There's a Ken and Ryu one. There's also a couple of others for the.
But you Ken.
I'm not even going to answer that. It is a very, very good controller.
I think it's worth saying straight off the bat, okay, we've got the 2 sticks that we've shown you already. I think the stick is definitely the ideal solution.
Yeah.
But if you play in Street Fighter 4, the 360 pad just is not good enough.
Well,
plain and simple is not good enough.
Make no mistake, for a lot of players, they just don't know how to use a joystick. I mean, you didn't. I mean, I grew up in playing in arcades every night of the week, stacking out 50p.
I never did. I grew up with the home console, so I've never really had much joystick
so
experience.
a lot of people just aren't used to sticks, and perhaps aren't used to the advantage that a stick gives in those kind of games. And maybe you do want to stick with a D-pad. Now, make no mistake, learning a stick will take a couple of days. You will learn it, trust me. When I came back to sticks after all of these years, it was a bit of an uphill struggle getting back into using a stick again, but once you're back into it, it becomes fluid. I mean, you learned it in a couple of afternoons play, and after that it just became easy. But perhaps you're not willing to make that adjustment. Perhaps maybe even you're not willing to spend that much money because they are expensive, the sticks. Well, this controller is a snip at £25. You'll probably find it for 20.
It's cheaper than the normal 360 controller.
Exactly, and well, with good reason. It doesn't have rumble motors. It doesn't have 2 analog sticks. I mean, those are the expensive parts of the pad. So they've saved on those certain components, and they've made up for it in other ways. This is there's a reason why certain D-pads are good for fighting games and others aren't. For example, if you want to play a fighting game, you wouldn't want the PlayStation joypad if you can help it. The D-pad's not very good. The 360 D-pad is just atrocious. It possibly is the worst D-pad for fighting games. And I've explained this before, but I'm going to explain it again. It's because the D-pad is this wide, and the base is attached to it is this wide. So when you press down all the way over here, it's just moving a little knob just here. So what Mad Catz have done is they've gone literally back to the drawing board and looked at all of the best pads for fighting games.
Now, I've had almost every console since the Mega Drive, actually. That's when I got into it. No, not showing off. To me, that looks a bit like my Sega Saturn pad.
It is almost an exact replica of the Japanese Sega Saturn pad. It's almost the same shape, and it has the same floating D-pad. Big, squishy floating D-pad. It's got lots and lots of travel on it. Lots of travel. And it squishes really big, and it rolls really easily. To the extent that we were able to pull off Zangief's double spinning power driver with a pad, which is basically impossible.
I don't think we did it at all with a 360 pad.
No, impossible on a 360 pad. I would imagine impossible. If anyone does it, then all power to them. But do it consistently. Wow, that's some serious thumb skills. You must have just especially down to the bone by that point. But so what you're looking at is essentially the Saturn D-pad. And it's also very similar to the ASCII D-pad, which was the big Dreamcast fighting pad, because the Dreamcast also had a terrible D-pad for fighting games. Very hard, very stiff. What works is very loose, very big, very squishy. And that's exactly what it is. It's a big, a meaty, mashy, squishy, squashy pad. They've rubberized the back, so you get more grip, which is good because nobody wants sweaty hands while they're playing. They have the same option as the arcade sticks as well, so you can switch between left stick, right stick, and D-pad.
No turbo on this one, though.
No, you do have turbo.
Oh, there is, sorry.
You have a turbo button here, but no selection of lights to show which ones have got turbo on. So if you press a button, the turbo light will flash. And then it's kind of up to you to work out which ones have got turbo and which ones haven't.
Don't do it when you're on live, whatever you do.
Yeah. Also, obviously, this will just take the 360 headset and so on. But this is, and again, I've been a pad player for a long time. I've used the Saturn pad usually. I used a PlayStation version of the ASCII fight pad to play games on PC and on PlayStation, and this is better. This is better than the ASCII fight pad, without question. Is it as good as the Saturn one? Maybe. Time will tell. But it's definitely better than any other fight pad that's available at the moment. Better than any joypad Mad Catz have ever made. And I know a lot of people will be looking at this, looking at the art on the front and thinking, oh yeah, I remember the last time Mad Catz did a Street Fighter pad. Wasn't very good, was it? And no, it wasn't very good.
Wasn't so long ago, was it?
Wasn't so long ago at all, no. And it wasn't very good. There's no disputing that. This is a different league entirely. Both the controllers and the sticks have been designed by guys who are obsessed with joysticks and controllers. As we said in the interview in last month's issue, we're talking to the guys who made it, Mark. He explained, this is a guy who's got 100 joysticks. You know, he's taken them all apart and seen how they work. So the guy who's got 50 joypads, he's taken them all apart. He's seen how they work. They got the right men for the job, and they haven't scrimped on the quality, and it's paid off. This isn't the old fight. This isn't the old fight pad. This is a new Mad Catz. This is a new controller, and honestly, I think a lot of 360 gamers, they'll be able to enjoy this pad and they'll be able to compete, even against people with sticks, and that's a big thing for a pad. And like I say, it's the cheapest option. I'd thoroughly recommend it. I mean, it's cheap if you're not sure whether you're going to be like really getting deep into Street Fighter. Give it a go with the pad. It's at least £10 cheaper than the closest price joystick. So try it on a pad, and then maybe you can upgrade later to a stick. The pad will serve anyone really well in the meantime.
How long must you continue to resist, boy?
Until my last breath.
Why do you resist the power within?
I don't desire power. I have my sights set higher than that.
What is it you seek then? But you have no answer. Seeking anything but power is foolishness of the highest order. The blood flowing through your veins calls out to you. Answer it. Answer it with your life.
All of mankind holds a power within. The power of life. This force is fragile, but eternal. Life begets more life, and the cycle continues. This force, this power, is what drives it all. But what is power? The answer lies in the heart of battle.
Prepare yourself.
Sagat, it's been a long time.
A promise is a promise.
Bring it on, meatball. No, Ken Master.
This could be interesting.
Don't hit me too hard, okay? Vega, shouldn't you be dead?
Perhaps I'm a ghost.
Let's do this!
That move. I've seen it before.
Do you know someone else who can do it? Let's go! My reputation is on the line!
Namaste. I am sorry, but you must let me pass.
Can't touch me! I'm always ready for a good fight. Come on! Who are you?
But your investigation ends here. You! Stop impeding my investigation! Interpol is really mucking things up.
There is something I have to do.
You're not gonna tell me what I want till I drag it out of you.
I don't even know you. Did you expect me to spill my secrets?
You're on the menu for that, amigo! I am the Origin of the Gulf of Mexico! My name is El Fuerte! Let's find out, shall we?
My punches will give you amnesia.
What?
You little. That's it! Every time, man! Every time! Well, I'm sick of this treatment!
Now, face the mighty fight.
I'm honored to finally meet you in person.
Bestow it upon me, and I may let you live. Treat every fight as a matter of life or death. Ryu! That's all you have for me.
This is some fight. I'll taste your blood before the fight is through. I can hardly wait to taste your blood.
Last chance to apologize.
Sound the bell! I'm ready to start! Let's finish this! You're a bad man! I'm gonna enjoy this. Kneel before the mighty Akuma! Still haven't transcended humanity. You lack discipline! I cannot allow you to win! Show me the strength you hold within. You've grown a bit. Now is the time to test your strength.
Come on! What organization do you work for? Playing soldier there, cutie. Get in my way and pay the price. Okie dokie, let's go! Ryu-san!
You? Long time no see. Have you been practicing?
Why not take me on and find out?
Prepare to witness the Psycho Legend! Looks like the time has finally come. This is something we fighters must do. Tenryu's invincible!
Hey, you're Fei Long.
Would you fight me?
If you insist.
Seriously? I won't repeat myself!
Allow me to see into your future. Ryu, you are the last hope.
Rose?
I cannot let you pass.
I don't want to fight you, Rose.
I am no ordinary man.
Again. This time, I'll get you to talk.
Seeing as who your father is, I won't hold back.
Become a part of me. Why do you suppose that is? My apologies for the late introduction. I am Seth.
I fight to rid the world of such diabolical power. It is the courage to stand up in the face of evil and emerge victorious.
Street Fighter 4.
So last month we talked about Resident Evil 5 and how we didn't have the code in the office just yet, and we were expecting it to be, a good game, and sure enough it turned out to be quite good. We were expecting it to be better than it was, which I think was quite interesting, because if we hopefully saw that DVD and compared it to the review, and it was a slightly different result. And with this issue we've got a similar situation with Hawks, because the code hasn't actually arrived yet, but I've played it probably half a dozen times now at various events.
I mean, the code was supposed to originally be last year, tail end of last year, and it got pushed back and then pushed back again.
Well, tell that to Splinter Cell, Ubisoft games tend to slide, Assassin's Creed slid. Yeah. Just wherever Ubisoft announces their release date, I find, you just double it and add 50%, and then you'll get close enough to what they were aiming for. It's and every time I played it, it's been very good. And the last time I played it, they'd added this new stalling system where when you stall a plane, you really do feel like you're just plunging into a stall. And when you pull out of it, you really feel like suddenly the power's kicking in, you're blasting out. The feedback is actually way better than anything in Ace Combat, which of course is its big competitor on the 360. The feeling of being in a plane, and this is still very much an arcade flight sim, very arcadey, but the feeling of being in a plane is much, much more tangible than the feeling in Ace Combat. But they still had the problem that I've been harping on about to anyone who will listen since day one. When you turn off your assists, you go into this distant third-person, like isometric camera, and you fly your plane from there. Kind of like when you take down an AT-AT in Shadows of the Empire or Rogue Squadron. Now,
Rogue Squadron 2 as well on the GameCube.
There you go. Now, it kind of works, but it totally breaks the immersion. It totally takes you out of the cockpit. And for me, this is a serious game breaker. I mean, a real game breaker. They said, the argument the developers have been making is we found a lot of players struggle to be aware of their spatial, where they are in space. The spatial awareness isn't there, so they find it hard to dodge missiles and so on. But with this third-person cam, of course, you can see missiles coming up behind you. And it's very important to note that the only way you can dodge missiles is with assists off, because that's the only way you can bank hard enough to do it. And with assists on, you haven't got as much control. You can't bank so tight. With assists off, of course, you can't use all the different virtual space things where it tracks your enemies and so on. But you do switch that distant cam, and then you can see what's going on around you and then chase after it. But that is in itself a huge problem, because you're ripped out of the cockpit. You suddenly got more control, but you've got less control because all of the controls change, and now all of a sudden
you're not quite sure, pulling back, whether you're going to go straight back.
Yeah, exactly. You never quite. It never feels quite right. It's kind of just like Shadows of the Empire. You don't always, and of course Rogue Squadron. You have to floating around this thing and sort of going a little bit too fast, and you're going up and down, and you're not quite sure. And I had that problem, and they were saying, some people should struggle with spatial awareness, and I can understand that, which is why I've been stressing to them from day one: put it in as an option. Make it an option, make it the default option, but let me play. Let me people who've played Ace Combat, people who play games, flying planes, people who play Sturmwick, people who even played Blazing Angels, which, God, wasn't a great game, but it didn't have the retardo cam. So, make it an option. Make the dunce camera like an option, and let anyone who wants to use it play that way. I mean, that's fair enough. And let anyone who wants to stay in the cockpit at all times play that way.
I mean, you can see on the videos below this roundtable, actually, on the menu, we've got, I think, 3 examples, perhaps 4. I think it's 3 though. assistance on and off.
Yeah.
Like when you're attacking ground units, when you're dodging missiles, and when you're attacking air units. I think they're the three. And when you've got assistance on, you're in the cockpit, and you've got like a triangle tunnel of light.
Well, you can turn that on at any time. That's a really good system actually. What it'll do is, say you have a target that's obscured by buildings, you can lock that on. Lock onto that, and then it will track a course in 3D space for you to follow, and that course will take you up, around, and then down on top of them, and then out of the thing. So you'll be able to get up above the buildings, straight down on top of them, fire a rocket, and then just pull out quickly. It's a really cool system, and it just, at any given moment, it's like anyone who's good at these games will be able to fly a plane good enough that they probably won't even need to turn it on. But at the same time, the options are really interesting one. I think it's a fun gimmick as well. The way they say it is like, it's a futuristic system which plots out the potential course in 3D space. And it actually does feel like that. It feels kind of futuristic in the same way that Grawl felt futuristic. I mean,
Tom Clancy, it fits in with that universe.
Definitely.
Just like 5 years ahead, that technology that's believable, but it's not quite here yet.
Yeah. But at the same time, I can fully see myself wanting to play with assists off all the time. Yeah. Just all the time.
And here's the problem, because on these videos, assists off, it doesn't hint that there's a different camera. It's only this zoomed out third person one when you zoom around. And as a summation for every video, it says, pros are doing it with assists on, pros are doing it with assists off. It's like, well, you're giving us two solutions. Neither of them are good enough. Neither of them are a good enough solution.
The assist system is like really cool, but you have to remember that every time someone fires a rocket, you're going to have to turn assists off to get away from that rocket. Banking away from a rocket a missile is really, really hard with assists on. I mean, you just do not have the maneuverability with assists on. You can't stall with assists on and so on as well. Or it's very hard to stall anyway. So you're constantly switching between this distant camera and then in cockpit, distant camera in cockpit. It's really, really jarring and really frustrating. And the last time I spoke to them, they said they had taken feedback on board about this, and they were considering putting it in as an option. And we don't know if they have. So we don't know if it's a really good game or a not very good one. And that camera really is, like I say, a game breaker.
Everything hinges on that.
So I have to direct you to the magazine on this one. Read the review, and we'll tell you. And if the first line of the review says they changed the camera, then I think it's going to be a good game.
Okay, so Battle Station specific. It's a game that I've actually been to play a couple of times over on the HMS Belfast.
Yeah, you actually got on a boat to play, didn't you?
I did. I don't really think it really added much to the atmosphere.
Did the ship sail off and take you around?
No, that would have been good though. If they made a proper day of it, put us in a plane.
It got you fishing or something.
Yeah,
I think I'd miss so good. The one rule I have is I never go to boat events because once you're on that boat, you can't get off.
Like Tim's famous story on the podcast.
Tim's famous story.
So yeah, Battle Station specific. I mean, it's a funny old one. Like when it first came up, everyone's like, "Oh, Battle Station specific."
People forget the first one sold like crazy.
It sold really well, partly
Bear
I think
in mind,
because when it came out, I'm sure Tesco was selling it for like £17.
Yeah, and there was nothing else released that month. That was one of the infamous issues of Xbox World where it was fairly early in the console's life cycle.
Like one of 2 reviews.
I think it was 2 reviews that issue. Yeah.
But so yeah, when Battle Station specific came about to go look at it, we were all like, "Do you want to go? Do you want to go?"
Yeah.
So I ended up going because everyone picks on me in the office, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really, really good. I wouldn't say it's basic, but in a perverse way, it's kind of like Street Fighter. You can play it on so many different levels. Like you can go in not knowing anything, not having any strategy background, really having a blast. Basic. It's a flying sim. And you can just play it as that and have a great time.
It's kind of like Battlefield, I guess. Like you can be the guy who just runs around just popping bullets and people are firing rockets around. Or you can be the guy who's actually really good at flying the helicopter.
Exactly.
Except of course in this case planes.
So you got that aspect to it. They've added so many new things from the last game, such as island capture. So now, because obviously it's all set in the Pacific, you can capture certain islands which give you vantage points. So you can slowly push back the Japanese, or if you're playing the Japanese campaign, you can push back the Americans. You can play it from the other side now. It's a really fleshed out game. It's much, much bigger than the first one. And the multiplayer skirmishes are, well, second to none really in its genre.
Yeah, we didn't really have a good, a good Battlefield style game on the 360. We've had Frontlines, which was good. We've had Battlefield Bad Company, which was a decent attempt. But what you're really missing is like a real sort of Battlefield style experience.
And this could genuinely be it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when
just a mix of vehicles. And let me get this straight: you are just in vehicles here. You're never on foot.
No, just in vehicles. I mean, obviously something like IL-2 Sturmovik is going to really embarrass it in some
Yeah,
fronts.
when it comes to like the plane combat, IL-2 Sturmovik was going to kick its pants off. But then IL-2 Sturmovik doesn't have a bunch of submarines I can drive around.
Yeah, subs and boats and everything else. So, it's not going to be hugely popular, I don't think, when it comes out. People aren't going to rush out to the shops, trade in their copies of Gears 2 and pick up Battle Station Specific. But if you even, if you just look at it, like read the previews and stuff, think, maybe I can go for that. Definitely give it a whirl because it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's entirely going to depend, that game, on when it's released. I think it needs the right release date. If they manage to get it on shelves in July, it might be seen as like a good buy at that time of year. It's going to be so a big hole in your collection at that time. Could be just the right time to get stuck into a game which essentially demands a lot of mastery, a lot of skill, and if it sells like the first one did, there's going to be a lot of people online too.
大なる精神に血潮がたぎり、戦友たちの血が天皇に命を捧げる勇気を与えてくれる。心には二つの魂が宿る。やがて空へ飛び、この命を懸けて使命を全うするのだと思うと、喜びに胸は高鳴る。それでも死は恐ろしい。この恐怖を乗り越えられるだろうか。敵も同様に強く恐れを知らない。死は免れない。
The American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
どうせ死ぬなら英雄として死にたい。
Let's get this clear. We didn't start this war. We've been attacked without warning on our own soil, and all that we stand for is at stake. We're ordinary men with families and thoughts 1,000 miles away. Ordinary men who'll be asked to take lives and give up our own in the name of freedom. We've faced and defeated our enemy at Midway, and we'll keep fighting with pride and valor until we gain the inevitable triumph. We didn't start this war, but we'll damn well finish it.
This game is absolutely massive.
Flames pouring out of ships, billowing smoke, massive explosion.
Ships breaking into two.
It really is epic. The gamer's experience is just second to none.
So one of the things that makes battle stations really unique is the blend of strategy and action. It's something that's not offered anywhere else. 1 minute you'll be on a map screen setting waypoints for your unit, and the next minute you'll be switched into the cockpit of a Zero dogfighting the skies above your flotilla.
For the first time, we'll include a Japanese campaign, which takes players through an alternative scenario and is an illustration of a course of events that could have happened had the Japanese succeeded at the Battle of Midway.
The two campaigns are completely distinct. So when you play the Japanese campaign, you play all the way through. So it's not a case of you play the same mission that you played in the US campaign from the other point of view. They're distinct parts. It really is double the content.
The addition of the Japanese campaign is great in many ways. With it, it brings a whole host of units that you won't have seen before.
Well, obviously all the units are different. They've got different strengths and weaknesses, different tactical uses. So where the American counterpart might be more of an all-round ship, maybe the Japanese one is more dedicated anti-air or has more torpedo tubes. So it opens up new tactics, new possibilities, new challenges for the player, which just really adds another layer to the gameplay. So when it comes to battle sequences in the Pacific, what players can really expect is just intensity, is action. So we've upped the particle limit. You can see just hot lead flying through the air. We've upped the damage model so you can blow wings off planes, tails off planes. When it comes to ships, it's fantastic. You can break them apart completely.
An all-new feature in Battle Stations Pacific will allow players to take control of land masses for the first time.
You actually get to land Marines on beaches, and they can support them as they push up using shell fire, which is really, really exciting.
One of our objectives has been to ensure replayability, so all of our missions can be completed in many different ways.
Most, if not all, missions in both campaigns now feature secondary objectives to add so much to the gameplay.
The secondary objectives allow the players to unlock certain features. Take a sideline over and discover a radar station. It might reveal a larger portion of the map and you can see what the enemy are doing. There might be weapon upgrades. It really does add that extra level of gameplay.
One of the main things that we try to do is to keep the player in the action as much as possible while still being able to make all the tactical decisions that they could in Midway.
The in-game menu features have been implemented in such a way so that you don't have to step out of the action. This allows the player to enjoy all of the excitement and the beauty of the game without having to adjust the settings in a separate menu. Battle Stations Pacific gives gamers one war, 2 epic sagas.
From flying around the Corsair to being in a Narwhal-class submarine and everything in between.
Battle Stations Pacific is a unique blend of action and strategy. It's authentic and a truly epic game.
Okay, so Eat Lead, The Return of Matt Hazard, starring Will Arnett of Arrested Development fame.
Don't know who that is.
Oh, it's brilliant. See, if Tim was here, he'd back me up. He thinks Arrested Development is the funniest show in the world.
Arrested Development, is that the show which has got David Cross in?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched that. That show wasn't funny.
Oh, Mike, shut up. Oh, don't talk rubbish.
Didn't even crack a smile.
Don't talk rubbish. Anyway, yeah, so like I say, Tim would back me up. But Tim snowed in his house because it's start of Feb. And we're under about 10 feet of snow.
Yeah, this is you'll be watching this like a couple of months later, but for us this is, well, not a couple of months, but a month later.
Month and a half.
Yeah. So for us, this is right during the time when that big snowstorm hit us. Remember that snowstorm?
Maybe it's still going. Like this DVD.
Maybe
got out.
Yeah, maybe it's like the day after tomorrow. It's like literally the end of the world. God, let's hope not.
People could be watching back from like a century later. Hello.
Hello, descendants.
Or not, if it's the end of the world.
Yeah, it could be the aliens going over the ruins of our civilization.
Exactly, what a primitive species.
It's good that we have Tim here to keep us on track, though.
I know, that's great. I'm so glad he didn't ring in saying he couldn't get in through the snow. Eat Lead. No, it's more fun just talking about other things than Eat Lead, really. I'm not holding out much hope for this game. It's very...
Yeah, the writing's good. Like, it is actually a funny game.
It's clever. Like, you fight a boss character, which is a generic Final Fantasy boss, and Matt Hazard speaks to the Final Fantasy boss and it replies in a text box. He has to punch an on-screen A button to carry on, and then when you fight the boss, there's like a menu behind him, about here, and there's a little cursor going through picking his moves, and you shoot the boss and hit points come out of its head.
I can appreciate that. That's a good gag.
Very
it's a well-implemented gag.
Very clever.
There's like a Wolfenstein level as well, where all the bad guys are 2D.
There's Wolfenstein levels.
All the walls are pixelated, and
really, really good gaming humour.
Yeah.
The game itself, not much cop.
Yeah, the premise, like is a really good one. I think it's for gamers. It's like a really nice one to like to see these swipes at games you've played. But it needed a good game. All games need a good game, of course.
Yeah, but if you're going to be attacking other games, like even lightheartedly, you need to be able to back it up by delivering a good game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the whole joke's on you. Like it's very much like The Matrix in that Matt Hazard is an aging video game character. He's been brought back for one last game. The guy who owns the company that owns the games is trying to kill him off. So what he's doing is basically it's like The Matrix. He's pushing characters into this game world, changing the scenery around Matt as he runs through it.
Right.
So that's how you've got all these different characters popping into existence. And yeah, the humour's spot on, but the cover system's okay. The shooting is really, really, really bland. In fact, at one point we were having it demoed to us, and Matt's running through shooting people. It's like, oh, isn't this level over already? And we're thinking, oh, jeez, isn't it over already?
Yeah, you can't make a joke about a level being long and boring.
No, and
the
developers
long and boring level.
See, we've added funny things like that in it, and I'm just sitting there thinking, that's actually what we're thinking. So, I mean, I've got to applaud it for the fact that it is, like, the script, so far, it is spot on, but the game just can't back it up, sadly.
To me, this is almost what, like, Duke Nukem should be. The next Duke Nukem should sort of be this, like, really, like, mocking itself, but good.
That's the crucial part.
Yeah, it's like I said, like the next Duke Nukem should. We've been saying this from the beginning. The next Duke Nukem should really take it to the next level, because the day when you can do like a crap early 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger parody are long gone.
Yeah.
So spouting John Carpenter lines and Bruce Campbell lines, and you can't do that anymore. What you need is to really take it to the next level and really rip into the games industry, rip into the internet, just really address all the things that have happened since. Like Matt Hazard does to a certain extent, really like rip into the games industry. Look at all of the cliches and really play off of them. But God, you need that game there. It's no good having a great writing, a great story. It's like gaming's the one medium where you have to get the game right and then add layers on top. A game can survive without a story, but a story can't survive without the game. So we're not holding our breath for this one.
Tonight on Inside the Game, from Russians to robots, from Nazis to necromancers, one man defeated them all.
A worthy adversary for a capitalist pig. He came at us with more fighter power than the 82nd Airborne.
His legend was matched only by his ego.
He was big in every way.
But today, this heavily armed hero is almost forgotten.
I lost my edge. They wrote me off.
Now, Inside the Game brings you the untold story of the real Matt Hazard. In 1987, he dazzled the world with the bloodiest game ever seen, The Adventures of Matt in Hazardland. He rode the stream of bullets straight to the top.
You know that English chick who raids catacombs? I nailed her. How else you think she got the part?
His pixel count kept getting higher and higher as the hits kept coming, like Murder Force. While he never ran out of ammo, eventually he ran out of bad guys to beat.
The suits, the executives, they put my Matt into kiddie games, like hazmat carts. They had no shame at all.
His friends drifted away. His enemies moved in for the kill. But some say his greatest moment is yet to come.
I don't give up that easily, okay? You get in my way, you eat lead.
So stay tuned. The story of Matt Hazard is only just beginning. Eat Lead, the return of Matt Hazard.
You get in my way, you eat lead.
My whole world is crumbling around me.
This place is a war zone.
My name's Hazard. Matt Hazard.
Matt Hazard is a guy who started in a bunch of video games.
When I was in my prime, I had a string of hits longer than mine. Well, let's just say it was long.
Matt retired, and then he gets lured back in to be the victim in a video game.
Ideas like this are why I'm going to be the best game company CEO in history.
My character, Wally, he's trying to just destroy Matt because the Matt Hazard game was the one game that Wally couldn't beat.
I'm starting a game, get out of retirement, have a few laughs.
He has a kind of a hardcore, witty remark for pretty much everything.
Oh, did that hurt?
Will's got that voice that's very deep and low.
Get the hell out of my way and let me settle this with your boss.
When you're doing the voice of a game, you're just trying to capture that sort of machismo that they have. I just did a ton of lap work.
No. Really?
I like the sense of humor level.
The next time somebody gives me bad news, I'm going to use their nuts as pinballs in my arcade.
There are certain words that they want to burn on.
Whoa.
I trusted the writers. No, I'm not going to read it like that. I feel like that they have a better understanding of who the character is than I do. No, this is bullshit. That was what I tried to bring to it.
More bad guys, what a surprise.
That's like the ultimate gamer's revenge.
Eat this.
Oh, no! No, no! fire, I wouldn't be getting hit so much. Now, who might you be? Oh yeah, Alto Stratus, from the Penultimate Illusion games. I would have thought by number 50 or whatever they would have given you speech instead of text. Oh, right. Target? What do you mean, target? Oh, for God's sake, get to the friggin' point. Okay, well, that was a little more to the point than I would have liked. Listen, my anime friend, you know this is wrong, so what say you just don't do it? An ellipsis? What the hell is that supposed to mean? My God, I have never understood why you guys do that. How much time do players waste in their lifetimes clicking past stupid ellipses? Sigh. Oh, screw this. Jeez.
Blow that stuff out of the way!
Damn, that was close.
I move right, now.
I am such a stud. Isn't this level over yet?
Roger that. Taking the right side.
Eat this. The bullet.
Not me. Oh, come on! Line up already! Stand still, you bastard! Oh, did that hurt? QA, it just happened again.
It was another hack. What's going on?
It's the middle of the night, but suddenly it's high noon. Literally and figuratively.
They're hacking in another character. Hang on.
Son of a... If I didn't know better, I'd say that was Jebediah Bedlam, leader of the Bedlam Boys.
You mean that gang of bandits you fought in A Fistful of Hazard?
Yup. Looks like whoever's out to get me is turning this into a who's who of my back catalog enemies.
I take it you can deal with him?
No problemo. My name's Hazard. Matt Hazard. I started my career back in the 8-bit days. When I was in my prime, I had a string of hits longer than my... well, let's just say it was long. I tried to branch off in new directions. That was a big mistake. The company that published my games, Marathon Software, never recovered. They almost went under, until an avid gamer named Wallace Wesley III bought the company. Just when I thought I was going to live out the rest of my life as a washed-up has-been, I was tapped to star in the first next-gen action title. Little did I know that the game I thought I was starring in was really just an elaborate trap. I only had one chance to get out of this alive. I had to beat the game.
We looked at the film and saw great aspects of the game with bullet curving and the storyline of its rich universe, so we really wanted to dive into that and really expand on that to make it a very unique gameplay experience.
We have a lot of game mechanics that someone who's a fan of the film are going to immediately recognize. The most obvious example is curved bullets. An assassin is able to curve a bullet around objects or around corners to hit their target. And so we've taken that mechanic and actually allowed the player to determine the curved trajectory of a bullet so that he can shoot around columns or shoot around corners.
It's not just linked to one enemy. You can take out 3, possibly 4. When you actually kill 4 enemies at once with a curve shot, it's one of the most satisfying things in the game. What also you can do is actually you can curve and hit objects, explosive objects like barrels and fire extinguishers, and it explodes and takes out enemies.
The whole arena is actually a puzzle where you can choose different paths using this cover chaining.
One thing that's actually innovative is the cover stabbing. So you can actually do close combat moves in cover. It's cool because it motivates you to sort of rush your enemies and get really, really close and personal.
You can pretty much slide over everything, jump over anything. You can actually stab enemies around cover.
You've never seen a bullet curving game. You have never seen cover done in the way that we do cover, and I think that those elements really sort of push the innovative side. And it's really important, because if you're going to do movie-based games, you have to push the envelope and do things that haven't been done in other games.
Serena, situation update, please.
Getting visuals now, Captain.
When you play the original Halo games, an explosion takes up the whole screen. So I'm going to kill a fast-moving purple thing, and it will come at me and die. In Halo Wars, it's going to be a view from 40 feet up, so it's not going to be one explosion, it's going to be 20.
One of the things we want to do with Halo Wars was tell the Halo story, show the Halo universe in a different way, and actually bring strategy game into the console.
In Halo Wars, you get to control everything. All the grunts and elites and brutes and choppers and ghosts and banshees and all these really cool vehicles, plus a lot of the stuff we've added. Control heroes, you get to control Spartans, you get to control small armies of Spartans. Everything is under your control in a real-time strategy.
We wanted something that the fans could see the things that they know and love from a different perspective. Spartan jacking is one of the best things in the game. They jump on top of the enemy tanks and they beat the crap out of the tank, they rip off the hatch, they toss out the driver, they hop inside, and then they take over that vehicle. And people are used to seeing that from a first-person shooter standpoint, where everything's very large. But we have all that same detail in Halo Wars.
Some of the battles in the game are small, and some of the battles in the game are really big. What's cool about that, at least in the campaign, is that's based on how you play. If you spend more time going to fight the Covenant, you may be dealing with a larger force than if you would have gotten there quicker.
And you get those choices, which is, again, the hallmark of a strategy game. How do I want to build my army out? And by the end, you've got, 12 or 15 Scorpion tanks rolling across the landscape, or you could have 40 or 50 Marines. And it's really kind of your choice. It is a game more focused about combat, which is certainly what the Halo fans will expect. People want to blow stuff up, myself included. It's a console game. Stuff blows up really, really well in Halo Wars, but it is also a game where you have to think.
The new part of this game is, for a lot of people, is actually playing an RTS. In the FPS game, you're just using one single weapon and one single tactic. In our game, you actually have to employ multiple strategies on the screen at the same time.
You're the general, training units and using those units to accomplish the mission. Commanding your armies, you're commanding your resource gathering or your economy.
You manage resources, which you buy that army with, and you actually use those resources to upgrade and change your army to form a strategy that you will hopefully win with.
There's a lot of different definitions for armies, right? There's like a teched out army, which is maybe not as big an army, but you've spent a lot more of your resources on technologies and things like that, so it's a very powerful army.
And it actually kind of maps into Halo Wars really well because in our game, the UNSC, the humans, they're the regimented army. But the Covenant, the sort of religious zealots, they can bring a lot more units to the fight, but each of those units is a little bit weaker. Halo Wars is a game about bases. It's a strategy game. I have to have a good base of operations, otherwise I can't field a very good army.
You start with just one unit or a base, and by the end of the game, you've got an army of 240 infantry or 5 Scorpion tanks. Or choose to upgrade them and make your current Scorpions even better. It's a lot of fun to be able to do that.
I'm actually very happy with the way we've been able to represent all the economic decisions in Halo Wars. They're faster, it's easier to do. I'm not managing 75 villagers chopping down trees, but the depth is still there.
We didn't want people digging in the dirt. We felt that was not what a console player really wanted to do. We wanted the focus to be on combat.
It's quick, it's easy to play, but it's very simple. I bounce back to my town, I get the supply pad upgrade, I'm back to the fight.
It's just that long-scale look at the actual war. It's not one v many, it's many v many.
It's a fast-paced game. It's an adrenaline rush from the word go, but it has that strategy aspect to it that people haven't seen in the Halo universe before.
My name is Okiku, and I am dead. We spent only 7 days together, you and I. No matter, in dreams, 7 days can be an eternity.
All the talent from the series reprised their roles in the game. I had a lot of fun seeing their characters in 3D, seeing the new situations, because they probably had more lines in our game than they had in the series. We have more crazy situations for them to be in, especially Sam Jackson. He had an amazingly good time with Paul Gardner, our game design director, creating really unique situations where he could just rip on Afro, signifying monkey style. It's really, really funny.
I think it was really important, like as talking about the consistency in the game, but that we also had this great consistency in the performances of the actors. Alongside Kelly Hu, Sam Jackson, Ron Perlman, we had actors who were really well known as voice actors, Phil Lamar, and the level of their performances was just incredible.
The Bear Man. Bear Man? There ain't no Bear Man!
Every actor read something into the script or drew something from the script that maybe wasn't the way I'd imagined while I was writing, but it really added emotional depth to the characters. Ninja performs multiple roles in the game. He's your hype man, he's your sidekick, he gives you direction, he'll bull you out if you make a mistake, he'll criticize. He takes this role that's almost the player's perspective. So he'll complain about stuff if he thinks something is wrong. He'll criticize something if he thinks it doesn't make sense. So he kind of represents the player's point of view in the game. I guess we tried to make sure with the kind of mature content that it was actually mature, that it's kind of it comes from the concept and the context and the individual characters. So Ninja is that's an inherent part of his personality, how he talks and how he communicates and conveys, expresses himself. It was fitting that he would talk like that, use that kind of language. It's pretty much limited to him because he's that kind of character. The other characters express themselves in different ways. So I think as long as we always made sure that it came from the characters and from the concept, then and we stayed true to that.
50 Cent Blood on the Sand has been in development for about 19 months now. We've had 70 developers working on this, working their guts out to deliver this title. We listened to the gamers' feedback, what they didn't like about the first title. We paid attention to the fans' feedback, what they did like about the first title. And we brought all of that together in a package that's 50 Cent Blood on the Sand.
It's a very different game from the first one.
Our story's been written by Cameron Pasha. Cameron Pasha is a producer for Bionic Woman. So we're taking 50 Cent out of the familiar and putting him in the unfamiliar. 50 Cent's gone to this fictional country to perform a concert. He's been promised $10 million in payment. And he gets to the end of the gig and him and the G-Unit crew go to collect payments, but it's not there. The concert promoters stiff them. So they take payment in kind, the diamond-encrusted skull. On the way back to the airport, their convoy's hijacked for the local crime lord, Saeed Kamal, and his henchwoman Layla. And that cues his explosive journey across this country to recover the skull. Early on in development, 50 Cent took a look at the game over in Los Angeles and said, I really love what you're doing, I love the gunplay, but I want more. I want more for the gamer. I want driving, I want flying.
When we found out it was going to be a 50 Cent game, it made us want to kick it up a gear. The opportunity to give his fans something they weren't expecting in terms of quality. It's high octane, big action. The set pieces were an important part of that.
What the gamers can expect when they play this game is an art which takes them on a journey. It takes them from the familiar to something which is much more remote, much more exotic. You kind of recognise that it's had wave after wave of occupiers, a city which is kind of like built up over time.
There's a lot of unique levels in 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. So the game contains 2 distinct locations, one city-based and one based up in the mountains. But within each of those, there's a number of sub-locations. Each one of those sort of realised to create an individual mission. The level is all about giving the player opportunities to score and string together, cool kills, explosions, destruction.
Our explosions and our particle effects and our environmental effects are absolutely cutting edge. We use fire an awful lot, so one of the things that we had to do is write particular technology to handle that fire. Many games have done fire, but we had so much of it in this, we thought we had to push it a little bit further.
It's a very dynamic environment. There's a lot of set pieces going off with floors collapsing underneath you. It's really something that the players reacting to on a moment-by-moment basis.
It's not just a game, it's also a package as well, because we actually have the videos and the music in there. So it's just a whole bunch of entertainment.
Like, you got hit music from the Curtis album, which was my last album. And that's with me and Justin Timberlake, me and Robin Thicke, me and Mary J. Blige, me and Akon, me and Dr. Dre, me and Eminem. Hit music for the last 5 years is optional for them to play. There's 40 tracks on there, and then 19 of them are brand new that they can hear new material.
This is a huge amount of content. Well over an album's worth of tracks that you'll have never heard before and can't get anywhere else apart from 50 Cent Blood on the Sand.
drug-addled exterior lies the heart of a reactionary prick, so I thought I'd fit right in here. Let's do this.
You're here, old man Johnny.
Look
listen. Make you ugly.
Whoa, that's heavy, man.
They teach you boys how to play with the big dog, cause this bitch bite back. That's my girl. You wanna kiss your daddy? Yeah, we out, son. Peace out.
In these perilous times, it's more important than ever that you follow your leader, and that is me. War's back on, deadbeat! The Almighty forgives, Johnny. The lost don't.
The main goal when we started working on Beneath the Ashes was to bring an all-new gameplay and story experience, something that'd be more than just an expansion pack, and a whole new adventure. The story in Beneath the Ashes starts with Laura finding a document that her father had written about an artifact that he had hidden away. In order to find this artifact, she has to travel back to the remains of Croft Manor and dig even deeper into her father's past.
Our main goal on Beneath the Ashes was to create a new adventure for Laura, in this case a medieval dungeon for her to explore. We wanted to have each area have its own unique feel.
It's really inspired by medieval, spooky, scary kind of horror vibe.
We actually did a lot of reference research, looking at torture devices. To me, the thought that there's this large labyrinth beneath the house is unsettling. If it was under my house, I would move. You know.
I think what people are going to like most in Beneath the Ashes, other than it looks great, is the new puzzles. The new puzzles are some of the most involved puzzles we have. It really takes everything Laura has and puts it to use. We really wanted to take some of the systems from Tomb Raider Underworld, like the grapple, and really expand upon what you could do with it. Since it's a more focused project, we've really been able to focus on the details, not only with the aesthetics, but also with the interactivity and dynamics of the environment.
My absolute favorite area of the dungeon is right up top in the center of the main dungeon itself, where there's sunlight streaking in and a very sharp contrast with darkness in the corners. There's spider webs everywhere, which is totally creepy. And you just get this impending feeling that no one has touched this area in so long, and it's extremely mysterious.
Operation Anchorage is rubbish. It's just rubbish. It has no reason to exist. It is basically taking everything which made Fallout 3 so good, moving it aside in favour of turning it into just a straight, linear, Quake-style shooter, which is fine for Quake because when you fire a gun in Quake, it's pretty good. But this game is not a shoot-'em-up. It doesn't have the mechanics of a shoot-'em-up, it doesn't have the feel of a shoot-'em-up. And as soon as you turn it into a shoot-'em-up, you've lost all the good things about Fallout. The big open world, the people to talk to, the things to collect, the things to take with you. Yeah, it's very pretty, just like the rest of Fallout is. Yes, it's a very interesting world, but it's just a straight linear path. Guys literally spawn in front of you and come out and shoot you. And it is a very knowing decision by Bethesda. They did this on purpose.
They even say it's like a video game.
They even say, one of the characters comments, hey, it's just like a video game, you know? And I think that was quite smart of them. Like I say, it's a very knowing thing that this is the most gamey part of the entire game. But I hope that all future downloadable content isn't going to be like this, because it's by far the weakest part of the entire game. A real shame. R-Type Dimensions.
I think this was out, the original was out before I was born.
Oh god,
So,
that's disgusting.
Never seen this before. No, I lie. Of course I played R-Type one.
I remember playing this on the ZX Spectrum back in the day. A fine arcade port on the Spectrum, a really, really good one. R-Type is of course the most bastard hard shooter you could ever imagine. It's brilliantly tough. A game which I never ever saw the end of, but now finally can, because they have an infinite mode in this game where you just get infinite lives, and the idea is you get through to the game in as few lives as possible. So finally I can actually see what lies beyond level 5. The whole game was designed to basically kick your ass off and suck money out of your pocket. I mean, it's an arcade game. All the arcade games from back in the day were. They've added the co-op mode to this one. They've added new modes to play, so you actually will get to see the end of the game. Lovely 3D makeover, which is quite plain, but they've kept it true to what the original was. It's not. They haven't tried to dress it up to be something it's not. They did shoot the red spot. There you go. Oh, that's good. Well done. It's still a great game, but at 1,200 points, a bit much. Okay, you might have heard about the Burnout Ultimate Box. It is basically just the original Burnout Paradise released last year, with all of the downloadable content we've had so far, plus the new party pack, which only came out last month.
And it's a party pack we just briefly wanted to talk about because it's great fun. We've had it going in the office quite a bit.
Yeah, just handing the pad off. The idea is you get set a challenge and you hand the pad off. It might be something like skid for a certain length of time, or dodge in a certain amount of cars, or
get a certain amount of airtime when you did on the bridge one point.
Yeah, that kind of thing. They are fun little games. They do take a little long time to load though. Like it could have been a little bit. Could have done with being a bit snappier.
An instant restart almost between the two. But apart from that, the whole past the pad plate, like it says here, I think it really fits Burnout's mould, and nice graphical interface as well with it.
Very pretty. Yeah, our art guy John Strike was very taken with it. He said, "Oh, they've really got a designer in on that." It's still as good a game as it was, and they're still going to keep on feeding it with downloadable content. So
best supported game on 360,
unquestionably.
Hi, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Mike.
And this is Resident Evil 5, a game which we reviewed last issue. A game which I reviewed last. No, we did the co-op mode.
Yeah,
as
we
well
did
as
the
single
co-op.
player. I think it's fair to say I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I always have been. I have been since it first came out when I was about 12.
You were 12 when the first Resident Evil came out.
Just ignore the fact that it was a 15 at the time.
I'm not going to stand for that. You were 12 when the first Resident Evil came out.
About there. When did it come out? 96? I would have been 11 actually.
Jesus, I wasn't even that age when the PlayStation came out.
Sorry, Mike. After that bombshell, yeah. So I've been a long time fan of the series, and I think it's fair to say everybody expected a lot from Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 4, after all, was the game of last generation. I think
so. I would play above Halo or Halo.
Above Halo, Shadow of the Colossus, Half-Life 2 even.
Yeah.
In Resident Evil 5, everything was pointing towards Resident Evil 4 being HD. And in many ways, that's what we've got. Resident Evil 4 with a second player and prettier graphics. And some other stuff. And it's this other stuff that I think really drags it down. In particular, I think the last 2 hours of the game, where Takeuchi opts to ignore what Mikami did with Resident Evil 4 and turn it into Gears of War. There's a lot of cover system. There's an awful lot of lock-in to cover.
Yeah.
There are... I'm going to say this, I don't mean this literally, but I'm going to say there are zombie army dudes. They're not zombies, I know that. I go on a huge, massive rant in the office if anyone calls them zombies, but that's in effect what they are.
Yeah, zombie soldiers. Bear in mind, Resident Evil 4 did have the guy with the minigun, who was also infected.
That's true, but he didn't have lots and lots and lots of guys, and the only way you could press forward was to lock to cover, run to the next bit of cover,
and take them on Gears of War style. Yeah, it's almost as if in their attempts to appeal to the Western audience, they just looked at what Western games were doing and said, well, we'll do that, with forgetting what they do well.
The other thing that really lets Resi down is, it's single player, to be honest, something which Resi has always been if you ignore, over here, Outbreak 2's net play mode. Obviously, Outbreak and Outbreak 2 were both online, although in Europe the first Outbreak wasn't. And although there were 2 players in Resident Evil 0, you could only play it with 1 person. You need to play Resident Evil 5 with 2 players, I think almost solely for the bosses. The bosses do not work with 1 player.
No.
You need 2 players. The second boss you're fighting with Sheva, and she's like, oh, I'll go around the other side so we can like get it from both angles so you can get the weak point, only she never does. You can't instruct the AI partner to go do what the AI partner needs to do, and that's where Resi totally falls down. I mean, for the most part, the location's quite cool up until the cover system comes into play. It's up there with Resident Evil 4, some good enemies, a few decent, I'll say decent, they're not fantastic puzzles like this one here.
I think that's almost the problem there, is like it does a lot of things well, just like Resident Evil 4 did. But it's this puzzle, I've done this puzzle in Resident Evil 4 already.
Yeah.
And all of the best bits.
As well.
Oh really? Wow, see, we didn't play quite to this point. Now, all of the best ideas in the game seem to be entirely drawn from Resident Evil 4. And all of the bad parts are ideas they come up with all on their own.
Yep. And one final thing, even the death scenes are rubbish.
Yeah, I played this and reviewed it in last month's issue. Made it, I think, quite clear. It's Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. That is a great game, and that's on the disc, in full. Fantastic. Still as good as it ever was, even better now it's been tweaked. Assault on Dark Athena, yeah, that's a good game too, right up to a certain point. And at that point, it all goes a bit wrong. It stops being this amazing, stealth game, this amazing action game. It becomes, in these sections where you're down on the planet, it becomes like every generic shooter you've played for the last few years, every bad shooter you've played for the last few years. The strength of Riddick was never in the shooting or the platforming. It was always in this hiding and the creeping around and being Riddick. And those later sections of the game don't do that well.
But for the rest of it, I mean, you've got a game and a half of, well, fantastic quality.
It's like I said in my review, it's a game and a half of, 1.5 great games. And on most discs, you don't even get 1 great game, so it's a really, really good package.
So this is Fear 2. This is a game I reviewed. Wow, I think it would have been 2 issues ago now, as we're recording this DVD. A fantastic, fantastic shooter. One which we've talked about on the podcast quite a bit. One which I think console players will enjoy far more than PC players will. It feels very much like a console FPS. It's quite spooky. Not as scary as Monolith can be. I still think Condemned is...
I don't think it's as scary as Monolith think it is.
No, definitely not. The stuff with Alma... Well, I mentioned in the review, the stuff with Alma, you grow accustomed to it. She appears quite a lot, and it's never really scary anymore, and the scary stuff doesn't come from Alma. And the way that they've worked that actually is quite nice.
I don't know, I thought the ending was pretty friggin' disturbing.
Yeah, the ending is a Disturbo ending. We won't obviously spoil it for people, but I think it's fair to say it's a bit messed up. The main thing to say about Fear 2 is brilliant shooting. Buckets of blood, but weapons are so satisfying to shoot. And for once, we've got some interesting levels in a Fear game. Never thought that would happen.
Yeah, well, the levels are certainly interesting, but they're still very much monolith level design, which is to say, if any of these places existed in the real world, they would have had to have been designed by a madman. Like, the actual layer of all of these places are just absurd, just nonsense. These places are nothing like anywhere which would ever exist, but,
at least they're fun to navigate.
Exactly, they're great.
Which they weren't before.
They're great places to actually have fights in, is the most important thing.
So, job half done for Monolith. For Fear 3, let's have a bit better level design.
Yeah.
And keep the rest the same, because it's top stuff.
Oh, Christ, Silent Hill.
Hey, I am a big fan of Silent Hill. Not as much as I am Resi.
That guy's face.
But I have liked Silent Hill again since day one. This really is a shadow of the former series, I think. Silent Hill, after 2...
It's a different developer, a Western developer rather than a Japanese one.
Yep. Not as scary.
Nope.
It's still creepier than most 360 games, without a doubt. But it's not as scary as Silent Hill should and could have been. And I think the main problem with it is that you're an army dude now. You've got combos and it's really easy. Like the combat is really easy to beat up those nurses.
You can kick some monster ass right now.
Yeah, in the first few games, like half the terror was knowing that you can't stand and fight these monsters. You have to run away and not seeing them. You hear the radio crackle, thinking, crap, I've got a lead pipe and I can't swing it with much force.
Yeah.
I need to run. Here, you just beat them up with whatever you find.
I don't know though. I would argue that having clumsy controls being, what makes the game is a bit of a problem in the first place.
I wouldn't say it was clumsy control so much as just your character wasn't equipped to fight, to stand and fight. The controls were never the issue. It's not like Resi 5 where
I can guarantee you that if there was some kind of apocalyptic rise from hell, then I would be better with a gun than the knobs in the first Silent Hill games.
Maybe Harry Mason was a bit, I can't aim it. But I don't know, it had a certain charm. I think being vulnerable works in Silent Hill because it's such a terrifying place, such an alien, nasty world. And without that vulnerability, I just don't think Silent Hill quite works as a series. And just with all the old door lock and key puzzles, it just seems a bit old hat now.
Yeah, we've been here, we've done that, and we've done it better.
Although, I mean, scenes like this, taken from the movie,
great,
obviously, when they transform to the Hell world, we still have a little place in our heart for Silent Hill, and we hope the series doesn't end. We just hope the collective's one.
Stab.
Okay, so Capcom have given us Street Fighter 4. Very, very good. They've given us Resident Evil 5. Good. Not as good as hoped.
Good with a question mark.
Good. No, it's good. Yeah. It's good. We'll agree that it's good. Just
not as good as Resi 4.
Nowhere near as good as Resi 4. Bionic Commando. That's out very soon. Jury's still out on that one as we record.
It's got Mike Pan from Faith No More doing the voice of the lead character. Can approve of that.
Hey, Eat Lab, what we've just been talking about, it's got Will Arnett as the voice, but still, it's not.
Sorry, who's that again? Carry on.
And then we've got Dark Void, which is out of the 4. You think if you're going to drop one, it'll be Dark Void.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem very interesting. And indeed, when Rob saw it last months and months and months ago, he didn't like it much. But you've got a different story to say.
Yeah, I take umbrage with what Rob was saying because he played the same demo I did. I played it at Leipzig. He played it at E3. And I got to sit down for quite some time and just really play around with the game. And I think it's rock solid, I really do. I mean, essentially it's Gears of War, but every now and again you'll climb a mountain
using your jetpack. Every now and again, because the video seems to suggest the majority of the game
in the demo it was one section. It was the end of the level, well, towards the end of the level. You're going up the side of a cliff, and you hang on and duck behind rocks and pop out, but you've got your jetpack going the whole time, so they can actually knock you back down. And then when you get to the top, you fight through some more guys, Gears of War style. You leap out of a building, fly around on your jetpack, which was fun.
Is it okay to control the jetpack?
Feels great. I mean, it's just done by the guys at Crimson Skies, so you really can't knock. There's one part of the game you definitely can't knock, it's the flying. To go back to the beginning, it is very Gears of War. I mean, it feels like Gears of War. You locked cover in a lighter way, but a similar way. And the guns feel, quite similar. It's like the same sort of bullet hose kind of thing, where you're just like spraying bullets. You wade through a bunch of guys, walking around cliff faces and so on, and make your way to the top of this tower. From there, you leap out, fly around in your jetpack, hijack one of the flying saucers, and then from there you get to control one of those, and then the demo ends shortly after that. Rob played the exact same demo I did, came back saying, not so sure. But no, I thought I had a lot of fun with that demo. I think it was a good, very good Gears knockoff with some extra good ideas bolted on top.
What about the world though? Because from what the videos show, it doesn't seem to be that interesting. I won't use the word generic because there's nothing really that generic about it.
The early shots we had were really interesting. It was kind of like this sort of 30s kind of looking guy, a big coif hair, much like mine. I'm like
Rocket Man,
Rocketeer. Yeah, like Rocketeer with like the leather flight jacket with the furry like lapels and so on. It's like it looked great, But in the game, he's a bit of a generic, like as we see it now, he's a bit of a Gennaro man.
Sci-fi man.
Sci-fi Gennaro man. He's got a helmet. He's a bit Dead Space Man, you know. He's got his bucket helmet on. He's got like fairly ordinary gear. But that guy who from the early builds of the game is still in the game. That's him, and he does take his helmet off, and he's that guy underneath.
Okay.
It's just most of the time he's got this helmet on because he's flying around getting shot at by guys. Now, I don't know. I'd rather he was still just the guy without the helmet, and he was, you know, he had a bit of personality to him. But I guess people, maybe, you know, they just don't want that. I don't know.
Probably all these damn focus groups, they always...
Exactly. Maybe the focus groups killed it. But I mean, certainly after Crimson Skies and so on, this is something the studio developing it should, you know, are really into that kind of 30s aesthetic. They really like that almost like Sky Captain-ish sort of thing. I mean, obviously Sky Captain came later, but still, we don't even mention that film. That film was terrible. But it's kind of, they like that sort of like 30s sci-fi World of Tomorrow stuff. And it's almost a shame they seem to have dropped so much of it from that world, because the world could have been so much more interesting, so much richer. But of course, it is a big risk. Generic sci-fi sells so much better than, you know, something specific, something that specifically knows what it is. So I can see why they've done it. Fact is, the mechanics work well. Whether you're on the ground or you're in your plane or your saucer, it was always fun. It always felt fun. There was a good feedback from the guns, good feedback from the controls. It's worth mentioning, of course, that Rob played this demo at E3. I played the demo at Leipzig, and we've seen nothing except this demo since. Whenever it's shown to us, we always see this demo. And the demo is very much a vertical slice. It's a demo built as a demo. It's not a level from the actual game, as far as I can tell. It's built to show off all of the mechanics, you know, in order. Yeah. And that we haven't seen anything resembling like the structure of the final game. It's perhaps a little worrying because it's supposed to be out in about 6 or 7 months.
Well, hopefully now that Street Fighter and Rez is out the way, we'll see more and bring it to you next DVD, perhaps.
Hopefully.
There's more to being a hero than saving lives. Sometimes
It's amazing how far you can get in life
needs to know the difference between lives saved.
by destroying the lives of others.
Agent Redfield saw the worst of what mankind is capable of. In turn, he exuded the best: bravery, sacrifice, valor. It is a great honor that I now present this medal to Christopher Redfield, with the gratitude of a nation and the world.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to accept this award. I would not be here if it enough.
I want to thank you all so much for attending. Thank you, and good night.
I haven't stayed up to watch a sunrise in a really long time.
I haven't had someone I wanted to watch it with, and
I can't think of a better way to end a date than this.
who says it has to end? We can take a dip.
Okay. It's a bit cold.
Oh, it's cold.
It's confession time.
What is that?
Anything you want to admit?
I don't know, I'm probably guilty of something.
Let's talk about it.
I don't. Chris, what's Chris? Are you okay? Chris, are you okay? You okay?
Death is nothing to be proud of. And survival is sometimes worse than death. Why did I have to go? Why couldn't it have been someone else?
So, I heard the company shrink thought.
So clear, Redfield. This is a shrinks now.
I'm just asking how my big brother's doing, you jerk.
Don't worry about me. I don't need any saving.
But I do need to be saved.
Chris? Chris?
No.
What is it? Are you okay?